can reflect back to being a player with and manager of some of the finest players that have ever been in the game.
Hotspur America. From the United States to N17, this is the original US-based podcast dedicated solely to Tottenham Hotspur Football Club.
When you're at a club like Tottenham, they expect you to win all the time. Be the best club in the country as far as I'm concerned.
Coming to you each week during the season.
Spurs in full cry here. Lamella! Oh, what a goal! And Christian Eriksen has scored!
I hate Arsenal. I just hate them.
Oh, what a goal! And Cafu has put Tottenham in front! Kane comes to the Emirates, scores for Spurs.
We're the Yids in America.
Carried away, but Dukes is there to tap in!
To dare is to do.
Tottenham Hotspur turning on the style. Glory, glory night at White Hart Lane. The Spurs are still marching on.
This is Hotspur America.
Season 4, Episode 33 of the Hotspur America podcast. As always, brought to you by the Community Beer Company, the perfect pub pint to share with your mates. You can find the Hotspur America podcast on Instagram at Hotspur America Pod. Look for us on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Spreaker, iTunes, and the applications on your Apple devices. Sam is here with me today. Sam, how are you?
I'm good. Lots of fun stuff to talk about.
Definitely. Simon, also here. How are you doing?
I'm good, and I'm not drinking a community beer, I'm afraid.
What are you drinking?
100 Million Singing Angels by the Texas Ale Project. It's a double IPA, 9.2, so I should be well into it by the second half of the podcast.
But to be clear, it's not as good as community beer. Correct.
That is correct. And Timmy also joining us.
Of course.
All the way from the maternity ward. Timmy, how are you?
I'm doing great. Not sleeping much.
Not sleeping much. Not
I'll
getting out much.
I'll tell you, it's been great with like the Olympics on, because when I get woke up in the middle of the night, it's like primetime Olympics. I'm watching everything live, but now it's over, so I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah, you're going to be buying the Sham Wow or whatever the hell they sell at 3 o'clock in the morning.
I guess.
I don't know.
Did you watch the curling final live? You did.
Oh, hell yeah.
I did too.
Did you not see me tweeting about it?
Yes,
and Matt,
I did. So I didn't tweet. I did not tweet back, but I was thinking of you the whole time because I knew that you were super stoked for that.
Oh, Matt and I were tweeting about it the entire time. I was really.
It was as bad as Sam's 9-year-old tweets.
Sam had some fun with Twitter.
Not my proudest day on the Coys Twitter yesterday. 3-match self-imposed ban.
Yeah.
I'm on match 1.
It was lively. It was lively, to say the least. But, you know, we move on. It's one of those matches today. Palace and Spurs at Selhurst. We come away with a 1-0 win, 89th minute header from the man, Harry Kane. What more do you say about this guy? But I thought before we get into the goal and the success of this match, I want to talk about the things that were not so good. And I'm going to start with you, Tim. Right from the get-go, the lineup. Jan apparently picks up a knock on the last day of training. Toby's already out. Both of these players have contracts that are trying to be worked out. Very positive, at least rumor and speculation from Vertonghen's standpoint, and not so much from Toby's standpoint. Do you think that these contract talks have anything to do with players missing games at this point, or are the knocks legitimate?
No, I think the knocks are legitimate. I mean, there's no reason, like it just came up out of nowhere that we're back in contract talks with him. I don't think that has anything to do with it. Toby's coming off of a serious injury. It was a very serious injury. He almost needed surgery. We're taking it slow with him. So I don't think it's much to be worried about with the contract talks. I think there were legitimate knocks. But you said let's talk about, what good stuff happened prior to Kane's goal. I don't know anything that good happened for the first 89 minutes. That was a lackluster performance the entire game.
Yeah.
And
the only thing that I saw that was remotely positive was that Aurier flick that led to the Eriksen flick, and it started to remind me of that Hoddle goal where the ball never touched the ground, and then Kane took a swing at it, and it looked like Paulinho took the shot. It was woeful. Aurier. Simon. I know he's not.
I was hoping you'd ask me.
You know what? I had that penciled in. I'm just going to let you go with this. Hat trick.
Good Lord. Where do you start with Serge Aurier? Can't cross a T. I'll give him credit. He had that really nice shot on the half volley that Hennessy palmed away. But how do you get 3 foul throws in a game. 3.
I can tell you.
Your shit?
No. You know what's interesting? So I wanted to look beforehand to see what the documentary is called, but there's a documentary on Netflix about playgrounds, concrete soccer fields in the suburbs of Paris, where all these great players grew up and played. Aurier is one of them. So I thought to myself, well, of course, they never throw the ball in. So there's a reason why.
No,
he's a fucking professional.
Yes.
Sam, stop.
Guys,
So you
hold on.
Like the kid who couldn't make a throw in. I mean, he didn't get to eat at the cool kids table.
Guys, let's be real here. As far as footballing abilities goes, throw-ins are like the very last priority for me.
You give up possession. This is retarded.
He's done it once, but he's done it once or twice before this year, hasn't he? Yeah.
And no other Spurs player has.
Yeah. And why was he he was throwing a strop about it, like he couldn't believe that they would call such a thing, and his right leg was a mile in the air.
He was yelling at someone, but I'm like, you threw the ball, mate. So I thought his crossing was poor as well. And again, his touch was letting him down. He was losing possession. So I thought we were much better. And we can talk about the substitutions or starting lineup. And Ken, I know you're going to hate me, but Son should have started instead of Lamella, because the minute Son came on, it was boom. He made the impact, and we could switch the play to the left instead of continually going down the right with Aurier. And Davis had a good game, but Davis and Son seemed to link up so much better than anything that was going down the right today. And I was disappointed that Son came on so late, because I think we could have put the game to bed a lot sooner than we did. And
let me ask you, did you think Dele was worth a shit today? I mean, when that sub was coming on, I honestly didn't know whether it was going to be Dele or Lamella. I thought they were.
Or Eriksson, for that matter, who was average.
No, you can't. No, I mean, I just felt like he was just missing that final critical pass. Everything else.
I don't think Eriksson was coming off, but Ali, his touch was letting him down. There were a couple towards the end of the game, like, dude, just control the ball and don't let it just bounce off your foot. We could talk about the lack of penalties. I know Kane was marginally offside on the one where he was bundled over, but Davis, should he have got one when he was taken out by Hennessy? No one appealed but Davis, right? And then I thought Ali was definitely taken out by Van Aanholt, and then of course, I agree with every pundit. He dived on that last one.
Yes, he did.
And it was the
first two were penalties though that didn't get called.
Yeah,
absolutely, 100%.
Do you think if he doesn't dive so much or have the reputation of being a diver, that the Van Aanholt foul would have been a penalty?
Well, let me jump in. We got a listener question, so while we're on the Ali topic, it's from Mark at El Cara Stumbling. He says, "What are your thoughts on Ali? The diving thing is really irritating me, but no one else seems fazed. He just seems too good to need to do it." So I'll throw it at you guys since we're talking about it. Are you guys fazed by the diving with Ali?
I'm starting to get a little upset with the frequency of whether it's perceived or real. And today, as I said, I think the first one was a foul. And this is what's going to happen. It happened with Bale when he had this diving tag, and he wasn't getting the calls when they were probably legitimate. But then he goes and screws it up with that second one. It just was terrible. When he kind of even fell over before he even made contact with Hennessy. But I don't know if someone's going to have a word with him, but he's got to stop it, because it's starting to get a little embarrassing. And everyone's trying to deflect today, and the divers in the Carabao Cup final today. I didn't watch it, but I saw some of the highlights, and I say, you know what? I don't care what anyone else is doing. We need to keep our own house in order, and Ali needs to pack it in. And I get it. Other people are going to say, well, when he wins us a penalty in the World Cup, it'd be everyone's darling. I get that, but he just needs to pack it in for Tottenham.
Let me twist the question around a different way, and it's a good question. And Sam, I'll start with you. If he's banging in goals left and right, is he diving or trying to induce contact to gain a penalty as much as we are seeing now? I think that there's a part of me that says this is a part of a lack of confidence in scoring in the box, and instead of taking the shot, you're just going to take the hit.
That's a great way to look at it. I've never really thought about that. You're right. I mean, if a player is just sort of on fire and has a lot of confidence in his game and is scoring regularly, does he feel the need to do that? I mean, there is an aspect I sense there's an aspect of wanting to do something, wanting to create something. I mean, part of it I don't mind, just from the standpoint that, let's face it, whether you want to call it cheating or not, it is part of the game. It is part of the game. Like, and Kane does it, and you look for it, and if you get a knock, in the box, you can sell it a little bit more. But if you're fouled, you're fouled, and there is something to be said about drawing more attention to it. But that's a great point. I never really thought about that, Ken. I mean, I think there's some truth to that. I think the fact that he's not being as effective on goal as maybe he'd like, that he feels like he's got to create something, and maybe that's the way for him to do it.
5 Premier League goals so far this season. He got 18 all last year.
He's not. Yeah, I mean, he's not. And I say this within the context of what we expect from Dele. It hasn't been a great season for him, and that's why I said today. Like, I thought Lamela grafted more. I thought he was involved in play more. I didn't think he was terribly effective, but he had some key passes. He defended well. I mean, if Dele Alli wasn't Dele Alli and you took him off just based on just pure performance alone, I wouldn't have found fault with that. I really wouldn't have. I mean, even when we made those substitutions, Alli, to me, didn't really make a mark. Did he?
What? No. So his last goal was in the Swansea match, the last dish effort at the end of that game. And I'm looking back at last season's scoring charts, and we all raved about the top three, the first time we'd had 3 guys in double digits in God knows how many years. So Kane's 1 goal off last season. He's on 34. He got 35 last year. Ali, maybe I should talk about this because it might crop up later on the podcast. But the other guys are all in double figures, and obviously Ericsson there with 12. Well, we scroll over to this season. There's only 1, and that's Son. We're what, 2/3, almost 3/4 of the way through the season, and Dele has 9, Ericsson has 8. So there's not been a lot of support for Kane, who's pretty much going to blow away last season, and thank God he's banging in the goals. But the offensive output's not there from the other guys so far, and they need to step it up.
Let me jump in on that, because we're saying Kane's banging in the goals, and I do not disagree with that. And what I'm going to say probably is blasphemy. But without that 89th minute goal, we're having different words about Kane.
For sure.
2 one-on-one chances. And it wasn't just this game. Against Juventus, he had that header right on goal, straight at Buffon. A couple times against Czech, headers straight at him. But, he makes up for it by eventually getting a goal in the game. And so it's like we just forget about it and don't talk about those chances where he has been one-on-one and he's missing shots that he routinely makes.
But you know what he didn't do today, Tim, and I want to ask you about this. He didn't, like, sometimes he kind of comes back and gets involved in play, and I didn't see him do that at all today. So what was it that Palace that was doing that seemed to choke him off? Because I mean, other than the touches that he had in the 6, the 3 that he sort of muffed or whatever.
I mean, there was just a lot of congestion in the middle, and I don't think he could drop deeper to get into possession, because you already had Ericsson dropping all the way back to being in line with Wanyama to get possession. Like, the entire first half, Ericsson was so far back trying to get possession on it. And I just think this whole game, I mean, lackluster performance, but I think there was a huge tactical mistake by not taking advantage of the inexperienced right back for Crystal Palace. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, he's a 20-year-old. It was his debut. And instead of, Simon mentioned earlier, when Son came on, it was a completely different game. But that's because Son maintains that width. You had Ali out there cutting in every single time instead of taking it directly at this right back.
And Davis did well, but he didn't get a lot of support going down. I mean, he beat the kid and got some crosses in, but it was much more effective. Was linking up with Son playing wider.
And to go
back, that's not really Ali's bag, is it? I mean, to play wide like that in that role that they had him on the left.
No,
it's not. And I mean,
although I like Lamela being on the right, I did like that.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know if mid-game you switch Lamela over there, even though it's not his favored side, because
he started on that side, which is what was bizarre today. Lamela started on the left. And then they moved him over about midway through the first half.
He did that last week too. They did that with him. They swapped sides. Oh. Yes, they did. Tim, it's interesting that you mentioned that about Harry Kane. Bad, headers right at goalkeepers. He had opportunities. He should probably have bagged maybe 4 or 5 more goals than what he has here in the last 3 weeks.